The Church of Santa Maria della Vittoria in Rome holds one of the most unusual Baroque sculptures, the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. From the moment Gianlorenzo Bernini finished it, the sculpture was labelled as problematic, for its focus on the physical instead of the spiritual. This label stands even today and is echoed by modern authors. Dan Brown, in his novel Angels and Demons, writes, "Saint Teresa was a nun, sainted after she claimed an angel had paid her a blissful visit in her sleep. Critics later decided her encounter had probably been more sexual than spiritual." Coming up, we'll try to go more in depth into the reason this statue is overtly physical. The majority of Bernini's contemporaries have received this sculpture in a positive light. This can be seen in the writings of his biographers, Domenico Bernini, the sculptor's son, and Filippo Baldinucci. Domenico claims that Saint Teresa was his father's most magnificent work of art. He describes it as the sweetest ecstasy with an angel which stands above the saint and pierces her heart with his golden arrow of divine love. From Domenico's biography, we learn about which moment Bernini decided to represent. We learn that Bernini decided on visualizing the height of her mystical experience. In Baldinucci's biography, Cornaro Chapel takes the place of Bernini's greatest masterpiece in Rome. Both biographies tell us of a well-received artwork, but Ecstasy of Saint Teresa had its critics, as did Bernini. Contemporary critics have described the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa as overly physical. Only one written source of this opinion remains, and its author is not known. He claims that the problem with the sculpture is that the peak of the ecstasy is presented as physical pleasure. The sculpture equals indecent and sexual, and to the author of this document, this also reflects Bernini's own religiosity and morality. Gianlorenzo Bernini was born in Naples in 1598, as the son of a Florentine sculptor Pietro Bernini. Together with his family, Lorenzo moved to Rome around 1605, a city that he rarely left. It would take an official summons by the French king Louis XIV for him to leave Rome for a little while. During his life in Rome, he would be considered an equal to Michelangelo, with whom he shared a passion for sculpture and marble. Bernini began his career as his father's apprentice in the chapel of Paul V in the church of Santa Maria Maggiore. While working there, he caught the eye of Cardinal Scipione Borghese, one of the wealthiest patrons of art in Rome. Bernini stayed in the cardinal's service until 1624. The Catholic Church was his greatest patron. Bernini developed his art working on commissions for Pope Urban VIII and Innocent X, during whose pontificate Ecstasy of Saint Teresa was made. But only under Pope Alexander VII, his authority over the artistic life in Rome was assured, and all the important commissions were passed to him and his associates. Historically, the most significant commission he had in Rome was the architectural, sculptural, and decorative work on the Basilica of St. Peter in the Vatican, where he worked until his death in 1680. The most significant source for our knowledge of the life and work of Saint Theresa of Avila is her autobiography. Teresa was born in 1515 in the Spanish region of Avila. She is considered to be one of the most significant Spanish mystics, Carmelite nuns, and theologians. Her life coincided with great changes within the Catholic Church. In Spain, the Inquisition was started in 1478 by Pope Sixtus IV. The Protestant Reformation was initiated by Martin Luther in 1517, and the Counter-Reformation and the Council of Trent soon followed. During her life, she continually worked on her writings, which are still translated and published to this day. She wrote 5 books in total, including her autobiography and text of mystical experiences. Her greatest accomplishment was the reformation of the monastic order of Carmelites and the formation of the monastic order named Discalced Carmelites. By building 17 convents, she attempted to restore the order to its foundations, simplicity and humility. Meanwhile, she supported the nuns and believers in forming and maintaining a personal relationship with God. Even though Teresa's writings and reform caused great controversies in the Catholic Church, she was canonized by Pope Gregory XV in 1622, 40 years after her death. The chapel where Ecstasy of Saint Teresa is located is a funerary chapel of the Venetian family Cornaro. It is situated in the northern part of the Church of Santa Maria del Vittoria. Cardinal Federico Cornaro commissioned Bernini in 1645 for the construction and decoration of the chapel, and by the end of 1652, the work was finished. As the focus of the chapel, Bernini sculpted out of marble a sculptural group consisting of seraph with a golden spear, ready to pierce Saint Teresa laying on a cloud. Above the sculpture, a window was built in, so light can go into the chapel and directly light it. This sculptural group is an altarpiece, but also just a part of a bigger performance. The architecture of the tabernacle was designed to extend into the space of the believer, giving it an effect of depth and giving enough space for a window to be placed above the sculpture. Light comes in through the window and merges with the dim light of the candles, giving the effect of the ascension of the Seraph and Saint Teresa towards the sky. The entire group seems detached from the reality of the viewer while hovering on the cloud. Since Saint Theresa of Avila was canonized in 1622, 23 years before Bernini began his work, he did not have an already established iconography to follow. Unlike the early Christian saints who have been presented in the art for millennia, Saint Teresa was yet to be typified in art. In a lack of visual sources, Bernini had to look for inspirations somewhere else. Bernini's representation of Saint Teresa differs from her earlier, more realistic presentations in which she is presented as a humble nun. Some of these earlier paintings of Teresa did have a focus on the piercing of her heart by divine love, but continuously ignored her femininity in order to emphasize her humility. Unlike them, Saint Teresa in the Cornaro Chapel is a young and beautiful woman. Concerning her age, Bernini disregards her own writings. Saint Teresa claims to have had her first mystical experience at the age of 45. This choice of Bernini's, together with half-closed eyes and body thrown back, has led contemporaries to associate Bernini's sculpture with eroticism. It is certain that Bernini used the saint's autobiography, written in 1565, as a literary source for the production of the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa. Today, it is widely accepted by scholars that Bernini used the saint's autobiography, The Life of Teresa of Jesus, as a source of inspiration. Domenico's biography of Bernini confirms it, and leads to the passage, "Beside me, on the left hand, appeared an angel in bodily form. He was not tall, but short, and very beautiful. He appeared to be one of the highest ranks of angels who seemed to be on fire. In his hands I saw a great golden spear, and the iron tip there appeared to be a point of fire." Teresa describes and explains what happens during a mystical experience and how one's soul and body are affected. The entire body contracts. Neither foot nor arm can be moved. If one is standing at the time, one falls into a sitting position as though transported, and cannot even take a breath. One only utters a few slight moans, not aloud, for that is impossible, but inwardly, out of pain. Teresa gives us the description of what this kind of ecstasy feels like. No sense of anything but enjoyment, without any knowledge of what is being enjoyed. All the senses are taken up with this joy so that none of them is free to act in any way. Now the soul enjoys incomparably more, and yet still has even less power to show it, for there is no power left in the body, and the soul possesses none by which this joy can be communicated. When talking about Bernini's art, one more aspect of Baroque culture must be considered. That is its tendency for theatricality. Baroque theatre in the time of Pope Urban VIII attracted creative people, including Bernini, who occasionally worked on scenography. Looking at the chapel as a whole, from both sides of the altarpiece are busts of the Cornaro family. All of these statues are peeking into the chapel from side windows or rooms, resembling theatre balconies. The figure on the right side of the chapel, closest to the altar, admires the scene enveloping before him, while the figure parallel to him is reading a book. Cardinals look as if in a heated debate around the nature of the experience. They mirror Bernini's ability to create a dramatic theatrical performance where he untied sacred and profane aspects of theatre by using lighting effects, architectonic elements, and complicated actor-audience relationship. Fusing these aspects of theatre, Bernini managed to create art that inspires strong religious experiences and emotions. In the Ecstasy of Saint Teresa, Bernini's theatricality calls unto the viewer, drawing him into the scene that is enveloping before him, while expecting his emotional reaction and participation. In the end, we can see that Bernini didn't aim at eroticism when creating the Ecstasy of Teresa. It does depict an ecstasy experienced by both soul and body, as explained by the saint herself. Combining into one sculpture the elements of a mystical experience and the drama of theatre, Bernini has managed to create a new way of representing religious experience, while simultaneously creating a more visually effective image, meant to motivate the correct type of devotion from the spectator.